There's, of course, an important conversation also happening about grayer areas and how people are treated in the workplace and the subtleties.
And this thing is getting even more bizarre. One of the key allegations in her complaint against Justin Baldoni, she writes, on another occasion, Mr. Baldoni and Ms. Lively were filming a slow dance scene for a montage in which Mr. Baldoni chose to let the camera roll and have them perform the scene, but did not act in character as Ryle. At one point, he leaned forward and slowly dragged his lips and...
Comfortable with its fair share of turmoil, yet no one anticipated this tempest, raging quite so intensely from the instant Blake Lively lodged her dramatic grievance against Justin Baldoni. The buzz in Hollywood hit an ear-splitting level one day. They're collaborating closely on It Ends With Us, and the next Lively unleashes a stunner alleging, Baldoni breached boundaries no colleague should ever violate. People gasped, scrolled frantically through news feeds, and pondered if yet another big shot in showbiz had broken fans' faith, but that wasn't the entire tale.
Mr. Baldoni was caressing Ms. Lively with his mouth. When Ms. Lively later objected to this behavior, Mr. Baldoni's response was, I'm not even attracted to you. Well, guess what? And you can hear Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni interacting as themselves. No such moment is shown. They're acting like lovers.
And my nose is so big.
That's her big harassment moment. They are playfully acting. She's completely flirtatious with him. He is flirtatious back, but they're talking about their spouses. She doesn't say, oh my God, you nuzzled me and said that I smell good. She, like, time and time again, she accuses him of doing something, which then when you hear the full context, she said, he came in my trailer while I was breastfeeding. Well, then he produced the text messages showing her saying, I'm breastfeeding, come on over. She accused his producing partner of showing her pornography, absolutely non-pornographic. Can't see any body parts. You can just see the two people clearly are in a bathtub holding their baby. You tell me whether that's what that looks like to you. She wants us to believe this is actionable harassment, what we just witnessed there, where she filed her lawsuit against him, saying this is all retaliatory and asking the court to shut him and Brian Friedman up because they're trying to try this case in the media. The only reason this whole thing got started before she filed the lawsuit, she clearly cooperated with the New York Times to leak the whole thing. Indeed, that's, Brian argues, the reason she went and filed the complaint with the Human Rights Division. She alleges that she's a Me Too victim there. That's absurd. I will happily participate in releasing any further leaks that they have. What does she have to fear if she's telling the truth?
Lively's charges gained fresh momentum when Baldoni fired back with a staggering $400 million libel claim targeting not only her, but also her spouse, Ryan Reynolds, and even their spokesperson. Instantly, the storyline shifted from Lively's courageous move to Baldoni's vigorous rebuttal, and the legal showdown escalated to peak excitement. It's practically a high-stakes reality spectacle. Massive risks, major stars, and legacies at stake, as more revelations emerged from the court documents. Fans began losing track of who was blaming whom. Some people speculated a masterfully crafted scheme from Lively's team. A calculated strike that perhaps overreached others insisted Baldoni's lawsuit was a silencing ploy designed to mute Lively. No matter how anyone viewed it, the gossip engine roared to unprecedented levels. Many spectators once cheered unreservedly for Lively, but the flood of contradictory assertions and the enormous figure tied to Baldoni's counterclaim ignited uncertainty. Was this a genuine plea for fairness, or a tactic to twist narratives? And what unfolded next would stun everyone, because amid this uproar stood Ronan Farrow, the acclaimed reporter who virtually sparked the flame for the Me Too movement people. Instantly presumed that Farrow idol to many survivors would back Lively's position. But as murmurs began spreading, insiders hinted that Farrow was in no hurry to endorse Lively's accusations. In fact, if the whispers hold truth, Farrow was subtly skeptical from the outset. This mounting bewilderment about whose team Farrow was on only heightened the suspense, and the query on everyone's mind was, how did we arrive here? It's no mystery that Ronan Farrow has a name for uncovering. The sort of misbehavior that flourishes beneath Hollywood's glossy facade whenever claims of misconduct arise. People turn to him for direction, or at least for that major scoop of investigative journalism to clarify the facts. So, when chatter began suggesting that Farrow might have played a role in digging up damning details about Baldoni, the saga erupted on social platforms. But wait. Farrow swiftly debunked all those rumors, He wasted no time stating that he had absolutely zero involvement. In the coverage, people found that jarring because for many, Farrow's name has grown synonymous with relentless accountability in these precise kinds of disputes that of course fueled further conjecture. If Farrow was stepping back, then perhaps... Lively's case wasn't as airtight as fans had believed. Still, even more baffling were those behind-the-scenes hints that Farrow wasn't merely stepping away, he was openly disapproving. Reportedly, Farrow felt that weak harassment claims could unravel decades of gains for true victims everywhere. It was the type of stance that turned heads. Why would one of the fiercest champions for Me Too be so critical of a woman speaking out? Unless he spotted flaws in her account. Some watchers found this astonishing after all. Wasn't Farrow the writer who helped propel the movement onward by exposing influential figures? Yet the rumor was unmistakable. Farrow feared if Lively's assertions crumbled under examination, anti-Me Too skeptics would leap, labeling all survivors as deceitful opportunists. The repercussions from that would be immense. Perhaps in Farrow's view, it was wiser to scrutinize everything than to support a cause that lacked proof. One supposed insider stated it plainly. He thinks we can't risk a public disaster that weakens real survivors, period. That comment alone triggered endless discussions about how even the loudest advocates must still prioritize due process over juicy headlines. While Farrow's apparent disapproval was grabbing attention, Joe Rogan chose to shake things up even more with his blunt take. Let's face it, Rogan has never shied from voicing exactly what he thinks, and this mess was no exception. On one of his podcast segments, the UFC host and cultural provocateur had some sharp words about Lively's lawsuit. He essentially dismissed her allegations, calling them groundless, and praising Baldoni for holding firm. It was the sort of bold opinion that set social media afire. Lively backers felt incensed that Rogan would align so confidently with Baldoni before any trial could expose who was truthful. They charged Rogan with stoking a culture of doubt toward female accusers. Others, though, embraced his frankness. They argued that from their angle, valid allegations demand solid evidence, and they felt Lively simply didn't deliver that in place with Rogan's huge audience. It's no surprise that his comments soon topped the trending lists. It also made people question if more celebrities would openly choose a side in the ongoing courtroom battle. A few prominent names quietly shared vague posts, but for the most part, Hollywood stayed tight-lipped. After all, no one wants to gamble on backing the wrong horse in a lawsuit so prominent and possibly so ruinous. And what happened next would stun everyone, because while Rogan's position drew instant buzz, a handful of quieter voices surfaced to emphasize how tangled these allegations might be. Did Lively possess secret proof ready to unveil in the legal fight? Was Baldoni's libel case overcompensating for something? Or were both parties engaged in a tense chess match, each aiming to pressure the other into retreat? For many onlookers, the more urgent issue isn't about which celebrity comes out on top. It's about the possible fallout for the Me Too movement itself. That's why Farrow's rumored disapproval hit such a chord. The Me Too movement, after all, rests on the belief that survivors' voices deserve to be amplified, that those in authority must face consequences. Yet here we are witnessing a courtroom brawl that feels more like a celebrity circus than a gripping pursuit of justice. The worry among advocates of the movement is that prominent disputes, especially if they prove to be based on shaky or unproven claims, offer critics the ideal weapon to discredit authentic reports of wrongdoing. Farrow's alleged position highlights this conflict in his mind. Any hint that Lively's charges might be false could embolden those who claim the whole Me Too surge is rooted in lies. It's a viewpoint rarely aired openly because it's so explosive. However, defenders of Lively assert that every allegation merits fair review, and the judicial system is built to uncover the truth. Critics retort that sometimes harm is inflicted just by tossing out an accusation, whether confirmed or not. The core question, then, is whether Lively's lawsuit can withstand the spotlight. If it falters, the backlash might echo far beyond her personal image. And if it stands firm, then Baldoni's countersuit could seem like a desperate bid to protect his reputation, with an astronomical dollar amount attached. The stakes couldn't be greater, not just for these people, but for a movement that hinges on credibility to stay impactful. What lifts this whole ordeal to near-epic drama is the jaw-dropping. Some slapped onto Baldoni's counterclaim. $400 million. We're not talking about petty claims court. This kind of cash could rattle entire companies, let alone one actress, her famous spouse, and their publicist. It almost feels unreal, like a plot ripped straight from a dramatic TV show. People wonder the intent behind such a huge figure. Is Baldoni aiming to send a warning? Perhaps he's signaling that if you challenge him with grave charges, you'd better have irrefutable proof. Or else, you'll face the courtroom fight of a lifetime. Others suggest it's a tactic aimed sky high, then negotiate for something more reasonable if the case gets that far. But the psychological impact is already evident. It sows seeds of skepticism about Lively's account and cautions others that baseless allegations might lead to monetary ruin all the while. Rumors swirl about potential messages, audio clips, or even video snippets that might emerge in court. Some allege Baldoni has proof showing Lively aimed to tarnish him over artistic disputes on set. Others counter that Lively's camp has piles of evidence that production conditions were hostile, and the libel suit is a standard bullying move. Both sides stay silent, likely under the guidance of attorneys who grasp the weight of these legal maneuvers. Meanwhile, fans everywhere dissect each rumor to determine which side might clutch the real game changer, and what happened next would stun everyone, because in an age where public opinion can flip with a single viral video, it's anyone's guess what evidence might appear next and fully rewrite the story. It's not just the polished public declarations that get people buzzing. Rumors of chaotic moments behind closed doors are stoking the intrigue. Alleged shouting matches, desperate phone calls, and texts that vanish as swiftly as they surface. These tales, while unconfirmed, keep circulating on gossip threads. One narrative implies Lively had a breakdown when she learned certain crew weren't ready to back her side of events. Another rumor suggests Baldoni was livid behind the scenes, raging at his own staff for failing to quash the scandal early on. The more drama-thirsty folks feed on guesses that there might be some shrewd plan behind each step. Did Lively time her charges for peak exposure? Is Baldoni's defamation suit crafted to eclipse any real missteps that occurred on set? Is someone subtly slipping the press misleading crumbs so the true story stays lost in a web of media frenzy? These behind-the-scenes ideas sketch a portrait of cunning players playing 4D chess with public perception. And let's be real, Hollywood's past is packed full of sly efforts to twist narratives. Celebrities and their handlers have forged whole careers on mastering the tale, burying risks, and molding how viewers see each star. In this clash, it seems no one is spotless. Both sides are likely jostling to make their take the accepted version, and that chance alone ramps the drama to an entirely fresh tier. The question is, which side is the true strategist? Is Lively's crew staging a smear effort, or is Baldoni's Circle launching a counterstrike that aims to sideline the Me Too focus? And once again, the loud but fleeting rumors about Farrow's disapproval hover above, feeding the notion that the journalist suspects one party might be exploiting the movement for selfish ends, regardless of who's pulling levers. The meltdown tales amplify the drama and remind us that for every sleek post on Instagram, there might be a flurry of messages unveiling the real story. In this climate, neutrality is becoming a rarity. Few in Hollywood can sustain some lesser-known performers, and influencers are softly whispering about possible exclusion if they back the wrong side. Studio execs and producers are likely tense, wondering if it's safe to keep partnering with Baldoni or Lively, or if they'll wind up caught in the fallout. And that's the true force of this clash. Whether it's about real justice or crafty ploys, the ripples could topple more than a few glittering careers. Meanwhile, Ryan Reynolds is said to be in the trickiest spot of all, named in the suit, possibly torn between steadfast support for his wife and the weight of a huge counterclaim that might dent future ventures. Some say he's discreetly met with elite crisis experts hunting for a plan that shields his image without casting Lively aside. Others guess he's furious by Baldoni's libel case and wants to battle fiercely to protect his family. The public only sees the polished social media updates, grinning shots, funny tweets, but behind the curtain there might be a storm of legal docs and quiet calls to keep the home from crumbling. Ronan Farrow's presence still casts a wide shadow here, even though he's repeated that he's not directly covering the saga. His rumored critical take echoes loudly, no matter which side you favor. The idea that Farrow, a figure so linked to real Me Too wins, isn't aligned with Lively's claims is a jolt. Is it a clue that her tale has gaps, or is Farrow's outlook just the result of weariness from years of sorting? He said. She said disputes that never fully resolve. Only time may show how all these fragments connect. So here we are, watching another huge controversy erupt in an industry that feeds on drama. On the surface, it's tempting to think this is just celebrity gossip meant to amuse, but dig deeper, and you spot a story about belief, responsibility, and the ruinous power of false or unprovable charges. Blake Lively's public move might be an effort to expose misconduct, or it might be a skillfully timed step with shaky grounds. Justin Baldoni's defamation suit might be a rightful push for redemption, Or it might be a bullying tactic cloaked in a massive price tag.